On December 14th, 2012, in Newtown, Connecticut, 26 people were shot and killed inside Sandy Hook Elementary School. 20 of the victims were children between the ages of 6 and 7. It was an unspeakable tragedy that broke the heart of the nation and devastated the families of the victims. Following this mass shooting, the founder of InfoWars, Alex Jones, referred to the shooting as a hoax. He called the parents of the victims crisis actors on his radio show and internet broadcasts. The parents of the victims then filed lawsuits against Jones, claiming defamation and damages resulting from Jones's words. Jones lost a default judgment on the issue of liability and is now on trial as the jury must decide the damages. Tonight, we take you inside the courtroom for day one of the trial and take a closer look at the evidence with Johnny Depp's attorney, Ben Chu, who earlier this year won the defamation trial of the century in Virginia. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Great to have you with us. Big trial happening. Let's talk first, though, about the Constitution. If you don't mind, this is a legal show. The First Amendment. It's first for a reason. It's no accident that the First Amendment is first, because without the First Amendment, the rest of our country, our democracy, the foundation of this country crumbles if you cannot speak freely. Right? We understand that. You understand that. I understand that. And I'll tell you, honestly, at this point in my life, it's unlike anything I've ever seen. There seems to be an attack on the First Amendment. There seems to be an increased support for the censorship of speech in this country. Of course, spearheaded by social media companies who are so powerful. That being said, it's still the First Amendment. And we have the right to say what we want to say in this country. I know it's under attack. But as we learned earlier this year, there are limitations to what you say. Remember that big case in, it was in Virginia, Fairfax, Virginia. I think I went there a couple times, as a matter of fact. Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. There we learned that you can't defame people. And if you do, and you're held responsible, it can cost you millions and millions of dollars. So while we have the First Amendment right to say what we want to say, to speak truth to power, to let our political views be known, there's limitations under our system of justice as to exactly what we can and cannot say. And a lot of it has to do with the truth and whether or not that damages someone else. Let's talk about the case we're talking about tonight, Alex Jones. He lied about Sandy Hook. He's admitted that he was wrong. Sandy Hook happened. Those children died. It was real. Those parents who were devastated were not crisis actors like Jones said. That we know for sure. Okay, that's not what is at issue in Alex Jones' trial. All parties agree, including Alex Jones, that this was no hoax. So whatever you may have thought at some point or still think tonight, in the eyes of the courtroom and what's happening in this case in Connecticut, it's a lie. It's an absolute lie. So now the question is, what's the damage? Now, Alex Jones has already lost $49 million in a similar case in Texas. Texas jury, $49 million to other parties, other plaintiffs in another lawsuit. Similar issues, similar case. All about the Sandy Hook shooting. But now the question of this trial is, what will this jury do? Because it's not about Alex Jones making an argument that this is not defamation, because he has defaulted in this case on the issue of liability. The question is, What is the damage? For those of you who need a little more information, we've got a lot more for you tonight. Ted Rowlands, Court TV anchor, has the story.
I'm telling you, I will never give up. But if you don't back us, and if you don't get how serious this is, you're next.
Far-right conspiracy theorist and host of InfoWars, Alex Jones, is facing off in a Connecticut courtroom against the families of victims of the Sandy Hook massacre.
Now, a lot of the tens of millions of video views on YouTube concerning the Sandy Hook hoax.
For years, Jones has used his radio and internet platforms to claim the mass murder was a hoax and that the grieving family members were crisis actors. Now in a civil case against Jones, the Sandy Hook families allege it was, quote, a marketing scheme that has brought him and his business tens of millions of dollars a year. And as a result, the families and survivors of the Sandy Hook shooting have been forced to endure malicious and cruel abuse at the hands of ruthless and unscrupulous people.
I can't even describe the last 9.5 years of the living hell that I and others have had to endure because of the negligence and the recklessness of Alex Jones.
My son existed. You're still on your show today trying to say that I'm implying that I'm an actress, that I'm deep state. You have this week. And I don't understand. Truth is so vital to our world.
Neil Heslin and Scarlett Lewis are the parents of 6-year-old Jesse, one of the 20 children shot to death at the Sandy Hook Elementary School on December 14th, 2012.
Is this your verdict, the 10 of you who signed it? So say each and all of you, all 10 of you.
Yes.
A Texas jury recently awarded them $49 million in damages for the harm Jones's claims have wreaked on their lives. A Connecticut jury will also decide how much in damages to award those families. A judge has already found Jones liable. Questions are being raised about how much of the judgment they and other Sandy Hook families will actually be able to collect. Jones's parent company, Free Speech Systems, filed for bankruptcy midway through the Texas trial.
We declared bankruptcy to put our cards on the table and show there's not all this money.
But in a separate filing, Sandy Hook families allege Jones is hiding his assets to avoid paying damages, even as he agrees he was wrong about Sandy Hook.
I think Sandy Hook happened, and I think it's a terrible event, and I think we need to protect our children.
Despite legal troubles that could hound Jones for years, he remains defiant and is vowing to fight on.
Yes, we're going to continue on if we get your support.
Day one of the trial, cultural reporter with our sister network, Newsy, Jamal Andres, is there in Connecticut and has more for us tonight.
Absolutely. Well, you know, today featured opening arguments and testimonies from 2 witnesses. The testimony that took up the majority of the day, though, was FBI agent Bill Aldenberg. Aldenberg was a first responder that day in Newtown, Connecticut, and he covered a lot of ground for the plaintiffs here. First, he was able to speak directly to the carnage that he saw that day. You know, he grew emotional multiple times while on the stand. The plaintiffs asked him at one point during his testimony, what do you make of the notion that there were actors inside Sandy Hook Elementary School? And he essentially said he couldn't bear an answer. You know, he started crying on the stand and essentially said over and over again, it was awful. It was awful. Second, he was able to confirm some of the many police reports of harassment that we have heard surrounding this case. Things like death threats, prank phone calls, and people online harassing these family members saying that their children never were alive to begin with and didn't die during the Sandy Hook massacre. Third, he was actually a victim of some of that harassment, essentially saying that conspiracy theorists online were putting up pictures of him next to the father of Ben Wheeler. Ben Wheeler is one of those students who was killed during the Sandy Hook shooting, essentially saying that they were the same person. And so, again, he was able to cover a lot of ground for these plaintiffs that are going to be extremely important as this jury comes to a judgment against Alex Jones.
Again, our big thanks to Jamal Andres and Newsy. You know I'm a lawyer, but you also know I'm here on television. So I'm a big fan of Amendment number 1. So let me bring in my special guest because I want to understand the limitations a little bit better. In Washington, D.C., trial attorney, partner with Brown Rudnick, LLP, lead attorney who represented Johnny Depp during his defamation case, the defamation trial of the century, Ben Chu. Ben, great to see you.
Great to see you, Vinny. It's an honor to be with you. Thank you for having me.
Let me ask you, first of all, before we get to Alex Jones, your summer, things back to normal at all, or will they never go back to normal for you?
Well, as my wonderful partner, Camille Vasquez, said, the whole experience was a little surreal for us. It is getting a bit back to normal, but it's good to be back and doing legal work again.
Excellent. All right, Ben, let me start here. This case, it seems to me, as I look at it, that the plaintiffs in this case, the parents of all these victims, are saying that they've been harassed by viewers and listeners and followers of Alex Jones. In the context of this case, do you think that our law should hold someone like Alex Jones responsible for the actions of others who have listened to him, who have watched him, who follow him?
Vinny, I think under these circumstances, yes, I think you did a wonderful job in your intro going through the importance of the First Amendment, but also making it very clear that lies that hurt people are not and have never been protected by the First Amendment. In this case, Alex Jones knew very well what the consequences of his statements would be. That is, it was eminently foreseeable, given his experience, that the consequences that have occurred to the families and have occurred to the FBI agent, Bill Aldenberg, were eminently foreseeable. And in those circumstances, it could be appropriate for a jury to find him liable in a civil context.
Now, this trial is going to be about damages because Alex Jones apparently not cooperating in the process of providing information, et cetera, default judgment. How different will this be than your trial that the world watched?
It will be substantially different, Vinny, because, of course, our trial was but it was focused on establishing liability. So the main thrust of our presentation, although we had some wonderful damages experts as well, was on liability. In this case, as you point out, the plaintiffs don't have that burden. They do have the burden of explaining to the jury why a large damage award is especially appropriate. Has done an outstanding job of building a nexus. In other words, telling the jury that they should send a message to Mr. Jones's adherents that they've been lied to. And this is a society in which the currency of the realm is money. And a large damages award would in fact generate a lot of publicity and might jolt people to the fact that these are in fact lies.
Let's take folks into the courtroom, Ben. I want to show you what the plaintiff's attorney said in his opening statement. Here's Christopher Mattei. Let's take a listen.
We're talking about within 3 hours. We're talking about when family members were gathering at the firehouse, not even knowing what had happened to their children inside that school, to their loved ones inside that school. And Alex Jones goes on this show. I want you to look at the date. 12/14/12. He's got all his websites up there. And you're going to see this video. Alex Jones already knew what he was going to say. He already knew. It's exactly what his audience had been conditioned to believe. It was staged. It's a government operation. He yells into his camera Why does the government stage these things? To get our guns. Why can't people get that through their heads? And they said this.
They have hit the ground running in a build-up, and I said, this is the attack. Look, people got to find the clips the last 2 months. I said, they are launching attacks. They're getting ready. I can see them warming up with Obama. They've got a bigger majority in the Congress now, in the Senate. They are going to come after our guns, look for mass shootings. And then magically it happens. They are coming. They are coming. They are coming.
How important is it, for this jury to understand the whole picture as opposed to just focusing in on the damage?
I think it's extremely important, even though the judge has established liability, for the jury to understand the enormity of the issue here. And I think the plaintiff's counsel's, Mr. Mattei's, use of Mr. Jones's own language is crucial and is incredibly powerful. To play the clip should resonate very strongly with the jury. I think he did a brilliant job.
All right, Benchu staying with us the whole hour. We got him locked down, folks. When we come back, we're going to take a look at some of Alex Jones's testimony from his first trial, plus coming up next hour. In Pike County, Ohio, the Pike County Massacre. 8 members of the Roden family executed in one night in 4 different locations. The alleged motive, a custody battle. Tonight, we take a look at the compelling testimony from a surviving member of the Roden family.
Up their yard and see the Frankie's baby covered in blood.
Blood all over the house. A senseless tragedy in small-town America.
This was a pre-planned execution.
It was a feud between families that ended with multiple murders.
Came in like thieves in the night and took 8 lives.
George Wagner faces murder charges in connection with the killing.
Wagner's brother and parents also charged.
It's very much a family affair. All for one, one for all.
It's a chilling story. It will be an intense trial.
The Ohio Family Massacre Trial. Live coverage weekday mornings on Court TV. .care.
People have said that I'm personally trying to hurt them or coming after them when I question every big event, and a lot of times it turns out that we've not been told the truth.
That's Alex Jones from InfoWars. He does question the government. He questions big events all the time, but he was wrong. And he admitted he was wrong about Sandy Hook. It was not a hoax. And the parents of these poor 6- and 7-year-old children who were murdered that day are not and were not crisis actors. As a result, he's being sued. Liability is already there. It's all about damages now. I want you to take a listen. This is Alex Jones, and what you just saw, he testified at the first trial that he lost to the tune of $49 million. Here was part of his testimony from that case.
So you did get my text messages, and it said you didn't. Nice trick.
Yes, Mr. Jones.
Oh.
Indeed. You didn't give this text message to me. You don't know where this came from. Do you know where I got this?
No.
Mr. Jones, did you know that 12 days ago, your attorneys messed up and sent me an entire digital copy of your entire cell phone with every text message you've sent for the past 2 years, and when informed, did not take any steps to identify it as privileged or protect it in any way. And as of 2 days ago, it fell free and clear into my possession. And that is how I know you lied to me when you said you didn't have text messages about Sandy Hook. Did you know that?
I told you the truth. This is your Perry Mason moment. I gave them my phone, and then...
Mr. Jones, you need to answer the question.
No,
Did you know this happened?
No, I didn't know this happened. But I mean, I told you I gave them the phone over.
Just
and
answer the question.
You said in your deposition, you searched your phone. You said you pulled down the text, did the search function for Sandy Hook. That's what you said, Mr. Jones, correct?
And I had several different phones with this number, but I did, yeah. Well, of course, I mean, that's why you got it.
No, Mr. Jones, that's not why I have it.
My lawyer sent it to you, but I'm hiding it. Okay.
Mr. Jones?
Mr. Jones,
Please just answer questions. There's no question. Mr. Bankston also only asks questions.
Sure. Mr. Jones, in discovery, you were asked, do you have Sandy Hook text messages on your phone? And you said no, correct? You said that under oath, Mr. Jones, didn't you?
I mean, if I was mistaken, I was mistaken, but you've got the messages right there.
You know what perjury is, right? I just want to make sure you know before we go any further. You know what it is.
Yes, I do. I mean, I'm not a tech guy. I told you, I gave in my testimony the phone to the lawyers before, whatever, and so you got my phone, but we didn't give it to you.
No, Mr. Jones. One more time. And please remember, if you need to assert the Fifth Amendment, you can. I need to know that you can do that. But you testified under oath previously that you personally searched your phone for the phrase Sandy Hook, and there were no messages. You said that under oath.
Yes.
And you lied when you said it.
No, I did not lie.
That was one of the big moments at Alex Jones' first defamation trial. Again, it was about damages. Lost the case, $49 million. New trial just underway today in Connecticut. Ben Chu is with us tonight, but we're reconnecting his signal. So let me bring in my other guest. Joining me in Los Angeles, California, forensic psychiatrist, trial expert witness, and columnist of Inside the Criminal Mind, Dr. Carol Lieberman. She is on this side, and psychotherapist and host of Talking Live on Facebook Watch and the Bite Side podcast, Dr. Robbie Ludwig is with us on this side. Great to have you both here. I have something I need you to see because I want your take on what we're actually seeing here, okay? Following the verdict in the Texas case, where Alex Jones was ordered to pay $49 million in damages to the Sandy Hook parents, he sat down with Channel 5 YouTuber Andrew Callaghan for an interview. Callaghan released a 2.5-minute trailer on September 3rd, and the videos reached more than 360,000 views. Jones is asked whether he feels responsible for what happened to the families of the Sandy Hook massacre. I want you to hear his response.
Yes, I killed the children.
But beyond that,
No, I mean, I went in that school, I pulled a gun out, and I shot every one of them myself. I mean, I'm guilty. It's true.
No, but I mean,
No, let's just, do I feel responsible that someone that played shoot-em-up video games on a bunch of drugs, went and killed a bunch of kids, and then the internet questioned it and I covered that? No, I don't feel responsible, and I don't apologize anymore. I'm done. I don't apologize I killed the kids.
Was there a definitive?
No, I killed them. I killed them.
All right, let's bring back in Dr. Carol Lieberman, Dr. Robbie Ludwig. Dr. Robbie Ludwig, your first reaction to that reaction from Alex Jones. What did you see happening there?
It just sounds like he's so theatrical. He doesn't take any responsibility for his behavior and lying, and he's very attention-seeking. So he's just into being provocative and says things to be provocative and get attention. And I don't think he thinks much beyond that. He just likes saying outrageous things. He likes feeling powerful. And I think what you see is what you get in this clip. And clearly he was making the interviewer very uncomfortable. And I think that there's a sadistic part of Alex that really enjoys making people feel uncomfortable in his presence.
Dr. Carol Lieberman, do you think he was putting on a show there? What was going on?
No, I think he was, deflated by what happened in the courtroom. Like he couldn't believe, he has somewhat of a sense that he is beyond the law and that what he is doing is right. And when he got punished in a sense, obviously with the verdict, it threw him off his game. I think the way that he reacted was it was a psychological defense. It was by exaggerating the other way, oh yes, I'm guilty, I killed the kids. I know this is a civil case, but so he can't be not guilty by reason of insanity, but there is reason to question, some of his how much in touch with reality he is.
We've reconnected. We've got the technology. Ben Chu, Johnny Depp's attorney, back with us. Ben, let me ask you, Alex Jones, what role do you think he plays in this trial? Does he? I guess he has to take the stand, right? He's got to get up there and talk. What do you expect from him? How much of a difference can he make? And will he hurt himself more than help himself?
Vinnie, if past his prologue, he will inflame the jurors against him. What he should do, as one of your guests just pointed out, is to take responsibility, to express genuine sorrow about what happened at Sandy Hook, but perhaps, or maybe this is a function of his counsel, to point out that he wasn't directly responsible for the deaths, but most of all, to try to take responsibility. But based on what he's done in the past, there's no reason to believe that he will do that. As I believe the judge pointed out, his attitude and that of counsel has been, to date, stunningly cavalier about his obligations as a party in the case and the case in general.
Well, let me ask you this, Ben, a follow-up to that. I mean, minus $49 million already. Obviously, there's an appeal, but collecting the money, that's the part we don't spend a lot of time talking about, but that can be an important part of litigation, right? You get the jury award, but you've got to get the money. And if someone like Alex Jones, it seems he's extremely successful, has built an empire despite being banned on social media. What are your thoughts about collecting money from him and his company?
Well, I think there is a possibility that to the extent that he has been moving around assets, or if he moves around assets after the Texas judgment or after this judgment, if there is, in fact, a jury award for the plaintiffs, that those could be examined in terms of whether they're fraudulent conveyances. So, for example, I'm sure plaintiffs' counsel are already looking at the bankruptcy of the entity with which he's associated and whether that's genuine or whether their assets, beyond free speech system and in other entities associated with Mr. Jones and InfoWars. I'm sure they're working on that.
Yeah. All right, folks, we've got a lot more to cover. We're going to talk about the victims when we come back, because obviously that's what this case ultimately is about. The damage, the torture, the heartbreak. We'll hear their stories next.
Statements and the remarks and the comments made by both InfoWars and Alex Jones repeatedly have tarnished Jesse's legacy.
And you have to think about the position. You're a parent, your young child murdered in this brutal mass shooting. And then someone with a huge following is saying, it didn't happen. It's not real. These are crisis actors. I mean, that's the world that these parents are living in, and that's why they brought this lawsuit against Alex Jones and InfoWars. I want to play for you some of the testimony. This is from the first trial in Texas, but I'm sure the testimony in this next trial will be along the same lines. And remember, the plaintiffs in this case were awarded $49 million. Here are the parents of one of the victims, Jesse Lewis.
I wanted to tell you to your face because I wanted you to know that I am a mother first and foremost, and I know that you're a father. And my son existed. You're still on your show today trying to say that I'm implying that I'm an actress, that I'm deep state. You have this week. And I don't understand. Truth is so vital to our world. Truth is what we base our reality on. And we have to agree on that to have a civil society. Sandy Hook is a hard truth. Nobody would want to ever believe that 26 kids could be murdered. Nobody would ever want to believe that. I understand people not wanting to believe that, actually. I don't want to believe it.
When it's stated that Jesse's was fake, that is an indication that he didn't exist and he didn't live. He did live. I was blessed with him for 6.5 years. He's been gone 1.5 times. But I cherish those days, those years with Jesse.
Brutal, absolutely brutal, and you could see and feel the pain that this dad went through in losing his son, but then the constant reverberation of it wasn't real, and then being harassed by others who apparently were listening or watching or following Alex Jones. Still with us tonight, Ben Chu. You remember him from the Johnny Depp case, Dr. Carol Lieberman, Dr. Robbie Ludwig, and joining us now in Los Angeles, California, defamation attorney Doug Merrill is with us. Robbie, Dr. Robbie, let me start with you on the pain for these parents. And is there kind of like this, does it come together, the loss of your son and then the piling on? Like, where does the pain from the loss of your child end, and where does the pain begin associated with someone saying it didn't happen?
Well, basically what Alex Jones did was he re-injured these vulnerable parents, and he galvanized a crowd to re-abuse these victims. And I bet Alex Jones has no sense about this, no empathy, no idea. So it's very healthy for especially these two well-spoken parents to come out in court and state their rights and to remind everybody about the importance of truth and reality versus non-reality. So this is very cathartic for them. I think it's cathartic for our society to know that people that spin these conspiracy lies and aim to just have power and earn money, that there's no place for that, that there is a law that prevents these kinds of people from spreading lies. So I think that the court process in this case is very healing for these people, and hopefully Alex Jones will be sentenced in a way that can give them some emotional reprieve.
Doug Merrill, let me ask you, how do you see the damage to the parents in this case? How do you put a price tag on it? Because, you know, Alex Jones didn't murder anyone, right? So it's not for the wrongful death of the children. How do you put a price tag on it? How does a jury figure that out?
Well, in one sense, Vinnie, it's really unimaginable how this could be done, because the injury that they have suffered, the loss that they have suffered, is so unimaginable. As a parent of 3 children myself, watching that mother and father at trial is just something that you cannot but empathize with, although seemingly Alex Jones didn't. And what the jury in the Texas case did is that they did monetize it. They did say, look, these 2 parents have suffered enormously, and we're going to award them just short of $50 million. And the issue in this case involves not a single child, but 13 family members of 8 children. And the trial is taking place in their hometown. And so I think that the message that needs to be sent, and that will be sent by this jury, is one that says to these parents, you deserved better. Your children and their memory deserved better.
Dr. Carol Lieberman, you know, the other part of this case is the pain, right? The pain of losing a child. Do you think the jury can distinguish between the suffering of these parents at the hands of the killer versus the suffering of the parents at the hands of Alex Jones?
Yes, that's a good question. If it were a simple wrongful death case, where let's say they'd be suing Adam Lanza, the shooter, if he hadn't committed suicide, you would measure their degree of loss of companionship, loss of earnings of the child. There are certain aspects, certain specific things that you measure how much they have lost by that. But this is sort of a mixture of things. Alex Jones, what Alex Jones did was blame the parents, basically, by saying that they were actors. He's saying, in a sense, that they killed their children, that they are pretending, or that they didn't love their children because they're making this whole thing up. Really, that's what psychiatric expert witnesses are for. In the interviews, I mean, that's what I do in interviews of the parents, of the people, the plaintiffs, where you try to parcel out these things, which is which. It's not easy, and really, in the end, the opening statement today was really good, and the attorney was telling the jury to decide the verdict on the basis of your experiences and standing up to bullies and so on. And so a lot of that is just going to be, and they're in their home state. They felt it themselves when this tragedy happened. So a lot of it is going to be emotional and not as clearly, X amount of money for X amount of suffering.
Ben Chu, let me ask you where the line is, right? I'm a journalist, right? So my job is to question things, right? So how far should someone like Alex Jones be able to go in questioning whether or not what's being fed to him either by the government or by some other entity, perhaps, media, is the truth? How far can you go in questioning that? And when do you cross the line into, defaming someone and causing damage and being held legally responsible?
I'm not sure I can identify the line. I think there have been books, legal treatises written about it, but this case is so far over the line that I don't think there's going to be any problem here. And that's where I think Christopher Mattei's opening statement was so well done. He is trying to tell the jury to do what is going to be very difficult. How do you monetize the damage suffered by 13 family members and the FBI agent? I also thought it was very good to begin with the FBI agent, because despite some things you hear, the FBI still is a respected institution. But I think what he did in his opening really plays well against what Jones and his counsel have done, which is, I think, to inflame the jurors by saying that somehow the families were exaggerating the harm for political reasons. I think that plays right into the plaintiff's argument that you need to have a large monetary judgment, not because you can replace these children, but to show the people who've been following people like Alex Jones that this is false. And the only way you can do it is to award a huge monetary judgment, because that's going to make headlines. That's going to seep into the public perception.
All right, we've got more to cover. Our guests staying with us. Plus, coming up next hour. And on the docket tonight in Austin, Texas, yoga instructor Caitlin Armstrong, accused of murdering her love rival, getting ready to head back to court. We have the latest.
Armstrong was so angry, Armstrong wanted to kill Wilson.
It was frightening. You didn't know what to expect. You didn't know what they were going to do. They would show up at different places, make outlandish allegations and accusations, and threats, and he felt limited by that.
Scarlett Lewis lost her 6-year-old son, Jesse, in the Sandy Hook shooting, and now she sued Alex Jones, and part of the award of $49 million in his first trial. Second trial underway in Connecticut. Let's bring our guest back in. Doug Merrill, defamation attorney out in L.A. Your thoughts about holding Alex Jones responsible for the actions of others, like described there by Scarlett Lewis, other people who made threats in a defamation case. Does that sound right to you?
Well, I think it does. And as Ben said at the outset of the program, really, this is the natural and foreseeable consequence of what Alex Jones did. And I think one of the things to really remember is that this case is rather unusual. In Ben's case, you had a single op-ed published in the Washington Post. And obviously, things that are published on the internet tend to live forever. But Alex Jones kept repeating these same scurrilous and provably false lies over and over again. As late as September of 2014, which is, a year and 9 months after Sandy Hook, InfoWars had a headline that read, "FBI says no one killed at Sandy Hook." And so he kept this going and kept defaming these people over and over again. And so I think in that sense, this case is much more egregious than the usual defamation action.
Ben Chu, the attorney who represented Johnny Depp, as you listen to these victims, and there'll be victims testifying here, how do you prepare them for this moment to be in the courtroom with Alex Jones if he decides to show up during those moments?
I think you get them to be genuine and to be real. And if they show emotion, that's fine. Some people are reluctant to show emotion. I think it can be hugely powerful. I noticed that Bill Aldenberg, the FBI agent, broke down and cried. That's not something he probably does. But I think it's very affecting to see someone like that cry. I think it really will resonate with the jury. So I would tell them to be genuine, and if they become emotional, to let themselves be vulnerable, let themselves be emotional.
Dr. Robbie Ludwig, what do you think the response will be to the fans and followers of Alex Jones, to everything that's happening here and everything that happened in Texas?
Well, my concern is that Alex Jones followers are following Alex Jones almost like he's a cult leader. So they have a need to believe in him, to follow him, and to feel probably that he's being victimized. Hopefully some will see a reality here and say Alex Jones took it too far. But I think Alex Jones followers really want to believe him because they're resonating with this idea that government is bad and has evil intentions, and that there's evil in the world, and conspiracy theories are where it's at, and probably people who are a little bit paranoid, like Alex Jones, kind of this idea that the real story is the exciting story that's being woven and shared. So listen, it would be nice if some of his followers would say no more, but I think probably Alex Jones followers are a lot more like Alex Jones than we'd like to think.
We are out of time this hour, but a big thank you. Ben Chu, great to see you. Dr. Carol Learman, always a pleasure. Dr. Robbie Ludwig and Doug Merrill, appreciate your insight and expertise. Hope to see you all again very, very soon.